Wonderful. Hello fellow guitar geeks, today another demo and review video of this, the Galileo Optical Tremolo from Dophix. I love a little bit of old school tremolo rock and roll 50s style. It's one of the most beautiful things I can hear in a guitar, apart from a really loud fuzz, of course. This is on the other side of clean guitar. Speaking of clean, the Galileo is not providing all that tone. The drive is coming from the Boss SD1 and the reverb's coming from the Boss FRV1. So this is without the Galileo. So that's reverb and drive, and with the Galileo kicked in, wonderful. If you're brand new here, I'm Andy and I do gear demos, reviews and other kinds of musical stuff on the channel. If you fancy subscribing or leaving a thumbs up on the video at any point during the duration of your viewing experience, feel free to do so. Before I go any further, you might have noticed I've made a small cosmetic change, upgrade if you will, to the pedal, because when I turn this on without that piece of tape, that LED is super bright. So I've got a little piece of white tape just here that I'm putting over the LED to reduce the brightness. It might actually blind you on stage. I don't know. Let me know if you experienced that on stage in the comments section. Anyway, back to the Galileo. It is not just a bog standard tremolo. It has a plethora of options because this is the kind of tremolo that I'm used to. This is the mellow yellow tremolo from 𝗏𝗏. We've got rate, we've got depth, and we've got level. Excuse me, rate is actually called speed on that pedal. But rate and speed are the same when it comes to tremolo. Speaking of tremolo, the Galileo has 5 knobs, 3 switches, and 2 foot switches. So firstly, we've got the go button, which of course is legendary. That's on or off. So off. And then tap tempo. So we've got tapping for the speed. The maximum speed you can get between, I guess, peaks is 1 second. So that's 1 hertz as well, which I learned today. That's quite a big tremolo, I think. I don't normally have it that far. First gripe of or second gripe, including the LED, I guess, is the fact that the tap tempo doesn't work very well with my fingers. It would be fine with a foot, but it's a little bit hard to press. So I would have liked to have seen that as a soft switch. So maybe Dophix can look at upgrading that in the future. Anyway, on to the next features of the pedal. We've got, in the middle, the knob, the speed. This is the speed of the trem. That being its slowest. This being its fastest. And it does that same sort of sound that my Fender Deluxe Reverb does. Just so you know, I'm just using the front end of the Fender Deluxe Reverb today. I'm not using any of the reverb or any of the tremolo, but I am using all of the deluxeness of it. Next up is the depth, I guess would make most sense to go to. The depth is how much tremolo you get, and very subtle, nice and easy to control those little warbly warbles. And at the top it sounds almost slicer-like. I'm going to try and get it doing some slicing a little bit with a distortion pedal as well. So we're going to go a little bit further than just that 50s rock and roll tremolo. Let's go on to the rest of the knobs. The smooth. This is how much that waveform is smoothed out. So if I play again. And what that's doing is smoothing off the top of that wave. So totally at the bottom, it's very square. So it's on, off, on, off, on, off. Maximum smoothness. It's kind of easing over those bumps. So it's not on and off, it's not on and off. It's on and then a little less on. A little more subtle. So if I put the depth down there. Again, it's smoothing out. I might turn the reverb down just a little tad because it's kind of... I like the sound, but it's making the tremolo seem less tremolocious. If you wanted it slicing, you'd have that smoothness down all the way, so there's no smoothness. The attack adjusts when that photodiode attacks, I guess. So right down here, the attack is at the smallest. It's a little bit smoother there, and at the maximum. The attack gives us a little bit of guitar coming through before the pedal sets in. Okay, then we've got symmetry. Check this out. So symmetry is currently at the minimum, and I'm going to adjust it as I play. Okay, so the symmetry is when I'm getting when the waveform is at the lowest, it's cutting out, so it's giving that slicing effect. Before we go further, I didn't actually get a manual to go with this pedal, so I'm not guessing, but I'm using my ears to tell you what the sounds are doing and what the knobs and features are doing, which I guess is how we should be doing it. Let's talk about the tap speed here. So in the middle, the tap speed is 1 times, meaning that if I turn it and go, let's play a different chord. Okay, I've turned the depth up to maximum just so it'll be very clear what's going on. So this is 3 times the tap speed. That's clever. 2 times. 1 time. So that's clever because you don't have to go tap, 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 tap to get a really fast tap. You could go like, you could go 1, 2, 3, 4. Missed the 4th one. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's double speed, then this will be doing triplets. Right, so it's doing 3 times the speed. I don't know why I said triplets, it's not triplets. Oh, I'm looking at my screen up there. You might notice that the LED is blinking in time with the speed. So, What chords do we have? Let's have an E minor 7. Double speed. Triple speed. It's also fun to switch between the two, so then we get these funny little effects. That I'm enjoying. Okay, let's go on to this one, the speed modulation. Right, in the middle, it's manual mode, so I can actually adjust the speed with the speed knob. Interestingly, the tap speed doesn't work if I use the manual speed knob. Okay, then if I switch over to the right, it's going to change what happens. When I switch, this is in the middle, when I switch it to the left, because we'll go left first, it's going to ramp up to double the speed and then back down to 1 times the speed. So. It's really subtle, I like it. To 1 times. I'll bring down the depth just a little bit so it's a bit more musical. If we go right, have a listen. The speed is increased and then goes back down again. So to put it in terms that I can understand, in the middle is your vanilla tremolo going at the speed that you set it with either the tremolo speed knob or the tap tempo. On the left, it will speed up to twice the tap tempo that you tapped in or the speed that you've set. On the right, it is going up to a tempo according to a sine wave, meaning that it's not so much to do with the tempo that you've tapped. So that's less vanilla. That's the crazy mode. And then left is double mode. I really wish I'd had a manual for this thing, but it is extremely musical so far. The chords, excuse me for the chords and the music I'm playing, I'm just enjoying listening to this wonderful pedal and these other pedals and this amp. It's a genuinely nice experience. Okay, I'm going to try and get it to do some slicing with a distortion. So I'm going to replace that Boss SD1 with something distorty. That's nice and slicey. Nice and slicey. It's a beautiful, beautiful tremolo that's really musical. And at first I thought the 5 knobs were going to be a little bit superfluous, where we're like, okay, what does that do? What does this do? It's really a case of playing with the pedal, realizing setting what speed you want first. That's possibly the most important part of playing with this pedal. And then next up would be the depth for the sensitivity, I guess, of how deep you want to go. And then regarding the attack, the smoothness, the symmetry, and the other knobs, that's where you get creative. I feel that I've played around with the pedal enough to understand what's going on and how to get something musical from it, so I can now do my top 5 tones. That means I'm going to select a different number of settings, 5 of them, including different settings on the Galileo and mixing it with different pedals to get different sounds. The first one I'm going to do is probably the distortion one. So here's number 5 of the top 5 Galileo tones. Whoa, stop, hold up. If you're enjoying the video, then please consider leaving a like by giving the thumbs up button a little tickle. And if you don't like it, then give the thumbs down button a little tickle as well. But tickle it twice. Click it once, click it twice, and that's a double thumbs down
for maximum height.
For maximum fun, I'm going to use this, the Swarm Fuzz from 𝗡𝗏tronics, into the Galileo to see what happens, because this thing on its own is already manic craziness. So here's a bit of fuzz. The Swarm is crazy, crazy fun. Okay, that is the top 5 tones. Here's the part where all pedal builders beware. I'm about to open up the Galileo and check out the build quality. Okay, moment of truth. Here we go. Lifting it up. Oh. There we go. That's inside the Dophix Galileo Tremolo. Decent parts. A little thing there. A little jumpery thing that we could use to expand something maybe. I wonder what that's for. But generally speaking... Oh, that lifts up. That looks like a work of art. And I love looking inside pedals because I don't really know much about what they do. But I know how they sound. So if you're into, electronics, then I hope that is a feast for your eyes. If not, then that's inside a pedal. The worst part about going this in-depth and taking pedals apart is putting them back together again. But I'm going to do that and not waste your time. So here we go. Back together again. Anyway, let's review this beast. The Galileo Tremolo, to me, is a wonderfully sounding tremolo pedal. It's beautiful, it's very musical, it's very easy to use, despite there being 5 knobs and 2 switches and a couple of foot switches. So once you find out where the depth and the speed is and how to use that by using either the switches here, so you're in manual mode, and just here to know whether you're in 1 speed, 2 speed, or 3 speed, everything else, for me, is just a case of finding something you think sounds nice. So this smoothing, the attack, and the symmetry is about rounding off those corners of the sound that you want. So for me, it was very easy to find a sound that I liked. especially on that sort of classic 50s style tremolo, sort of that rock and roll tremolo. The slicing, that was super easy. So I've used tremolos before. If you've never used a tremolo, then maybe you might want to start with something, you know, a little bit more simple, a 3-knobber. But don't be afraid of going into something like the Galileo, because it is going to deliver great sounds without too much tweaking, even though you can tweak if you want to. The pedal is far from perfect, however, because as you can see with my little white piece of tape, that's necessary for me to film it. And indeed, if this was a gig, then that would be super bright. I would be able to see it, but it would also be super bright for on stage and maybe blinding you if you're trying to look at the knobs. That takes me to my second gripe, is that the knobs themselves, I don't like these particular knobs because if I've got sweaty fingers, then they're hard to grip. If you're in a gig situation and you want to really play with those knobs, then you might have an issue. Another thing is these two switches. They're a little bit too small for my eyes and my fingers, and I was never sure really if I was in position 1, position 2 or 3, in the middle or on the left or the right. I don't know if that's something that would be a problem for you, but certainly for me, I'd need something that was more visually clear. And I feel like I'm really bashing this pedal, but I'm not. It's a beautiful sounding pedal, but the tap, that with my finger is going to be different. So if we're turned on and we're tapping away, with a finger, that's going to be hard. But with a foot, it should be... Yeah, it's fine. I can confirm it's absolutely fine if you're using it in the standard way of foot switches rather than the YouTuber way of using their thumbs, which I am guilty of. But wear shoes, because I have just injured the undersole of my foot slightly. No fault of Dophix, just me for not wearing shoes. Time to go to Amazon and order some humongous shoes, I think. To sum it up, the sounds are beautiful, the build quality is fantastic, and there's a lot of options on offer, so you don't just go for a simple tremolo. If you want something with a bit more depth, a little bit more features on board, and still staying analog, then the Galileo is a great, great option. I will say, however, that the downsides of the really super bright LED, just there to prove my point, that's too bright, Dophix, you need to fix that. The knobs, I would like you to have different knobs on. Everything else, I can handle. The biggest compliment I can give it is that it will be going on my pedal board for my blues rock band, because it does sound wonderfully organic and what's the word? Analog. There we go. I'll throw that in there. That brings us to the end of the video, which means you have made it to the end of the video club. To prove that you are a member of this prestigious elite, leave me a comment down below and include the word Magnifico. And that let me know that you watched this part of the video. Yes. And that's it today from me and the Galileo Optical Tremolo from Dophix. If you want to purchase it or you want more information, then there are links in the video description. There's also links to the other gear that I used in this video, so go and check that out as well. I hope to see you sometime in the future. Thanks for stopping by. Toodaloo.